Thank you everyone for joining us at this event. It is a true honor to have such amazing players and community. In this special event, I would like to take you all back in time and share all the explorations we have done before the game finally took its form as what we know today as Sky. It blows my mind to realize how far Sky has come and how many of our dreams have actually come true. It has been quite a journey, full of hopes and wonders, some struggles of course, but the result was miraculous. Inspirations led to many ideas. I have collected so many ideas that they may seem random and overwhelming, but I hope these evolutions of ideas is entertaining and worth your watch. Let's get started. So in the beginning, we can't start without mentioning this game. It is called Cloud, and it's a game made by our creative director Genova Chen when he was in school. The game is about a sick child on a hospital bed, dreaming about flying beyond clouds. You don't fight or compete. This emotional experience inspired so many people and showed how games could have a wider range of emotions. This game is why That Game Company has formed, and this is the origin of the kind of the game we are making today. Another important work to mention is The Giant by the artist N.C. Wyeth. This work, which is said to have been imagined with thoughts of a deceased student and his own children, beautifully expresses the fascination and grandeur of the world as seen through the eyes of children. With those two works as inspiration, we wanted to make a game that captures that emotion, an emotion of returning to childhood and adventure into the world through the eyes of child. This work was done by Ki Jiang, also known as Jackie. And this was about the time when I joined the team. When I joined the team, the game actually looked like this here. So my job was to first imagine what the game and the world could look like. So I started by imagining how the game would start. A tiny nameless island surrounded by big cumulus clouds. I tried to put myself into the world and imagine the situation. A familiar, nostalgic world where a big cumulus cloud awaits you ahead. I knew this is a game about flying, but I wanted to push on the nostalgic feel first and imagine the flight to be more like a dream. I started with sketches, literally dreaming about situations that evoked nostalgia and the pleasure of flying. This is artwork by Tom Zhao, which captures one of our early concept of juxtaposition of nostalgia and wonder. At this time, we were exploring the idea of making a familiar modern world to have you fly over, like soaring over the California. If you have taken that ride before, it's pretty cool. We made many prototypes about this, but still weren't able to capture the essence of the experience we were after. So let me step back one moment to talk about the year I joined the team. This is a story of 2012, and this was the year when Journey was released. The game was received so well, and we heard so many voices asking us to make this experience available to more people. Journey was about connecting a player with another player, and people really felt the human-to-human connection. And we learned that people wanted more of this. So the next game, we really wanted to enhance this experience and make more people connect. So with that in mind, considering the connection, the third inspiration for the game we came up was the overview effect. The overview effect describes a cognitive transformation observed in some astronauts when they gaze upon Earth from space. This awe-inspiring sight against the vastness of the cosmos triggered the intense emotions, fostering a profound appreciation for our planet's fragility and a deep connection to humanity as a whole. These are concept sketches done by Genova and Jackie, imagining the moment when your players feel the connection to humanity. And this concept made us realize that the core of our game is connection, human-to-human connection. For me personally, this sketch helped me with a significant breakthrough in understanding the core of the game. It is not the amazing landscape or dreamlike scenario, but what comes center in our experience is the connection with the other players. Then the question is, what kind of world would help serve a stage to tell a story about connection? What is connection to begin with? How do we visualize them, and how do we tell the story? We knew we wanted to fly above clouds and eventually reach the atmosphere for the overview effect. Then we tried to imagine what things would make such journey. These are all artworks done by Evan Vieira. Then we came to realize water particles have this similar cycle. They are on ground but evaporates, and then they fly up into sky, then becomes clouds, and then fall back onto the ground. We found this very intriguing, and we tried to apply this into a story. It's a story of a cycle of particles all heading towards the storm to be purified and then to be reborn again. With those particle story in mind, we then tried again to reimagine the world, the look of the world that they travel through. Tried to imagine a world above clouds. Maybe these particles are physical form of people's dreams and memories. When they travel through clouds, maybe clouds reflect those memories and make that into physical forms. I have personally been fascinated by clouds and have observed many clouds. Staring at clouds and imagining shapes on them was my second nature, so it was pretty fun time to sketch out clouds, shaping them like a piece of clay. Tried many iterations, trying to get a sense of a world from them. But then soon I realized that a world made entirely by clouds makes the world a little unrelatable. We live on grounds, and things on grounds give us way more context to play with. But the dilemma was that we wanted to make a game about flight in sky. So I thought, why not bring the ground itself up into the sky? So I tried thinking about a ground that floats. But my issue here was that I tried too hard making these terrains to look exotic, and this was still not very relatable. So then I went back and onto the ground again, going back to my origin and imagining how I would start the game. What is it that makes you feel like you want to fly, and how can you make a scene that evokes this emotion of longing for flight? And there's something to this concept, an isle beginning, a call to adventure. We have iterated on this first level of the game the most, but it's interesting to see how the concept of an island at the first level stayed true until the end. I'll be honest, we have been hitting a wall. We couldn't really figure out a world that was fun to be around. We needed things to do, which brought us to our next focus, which is creatures. They are the residents of this world. They're the ones that gives life into the world. So what are the things that live in this imaginary world? What are their function, and how do they serve you in the experience? I tried to imagine situations of the encounter of these creatures. First imagine birds, but birds in sky is not very fresh. That's not a new concept. We did want to present a new concept, new idea. We also didn't want our flight to look like it takes some effort. We wanted to preserve the elegant, dreamy quality in the way things fly in our game. Then we eventually found aquatic animals. How they swam was pretty elegant, and it was fitting for our game. To contrast the helpful creatures that are elegant and swimming, we also wanted to introduce antagonistic creatures. And this, you could see some origin for some of the dark creatures we have in the game today. Now that we are starting to fill the world with creatures, we then try to imagine if there has been any people in this world. Like showing this beautiful concept done by Tiffany Hayashi, or also known as Purple Almond. It would also add much depth in the world, to have a history behind. Civilization would also bring possibilities to introduce puzzles to the game. It was really fun imagining, pieces of puzzles, made with ruins. So we brainstormed who are these people and what do they do. We tried to imagine civilization that could exist in a cloudscape. Do they live in caves? What are the materials they have to build their homes? Where do they get these materials? What's the surrounding biome? Because creatures are aquatic, maybe the landscape should also be inspired by aquatic things. Is this completely made up, exotic world? One of the efforts in trying to bring the concept of connection back to the core, we tried to imagine the world connected by a giant tree. These are some sketches done under this concept. Also, because of the aquatic reference, we also have thought about a world sunken underwater. This was a very interesting concept for me personally, but felt like it took the attention away from the sky. We did wonder if we should make these people still alive in the world or have them perished. Ruins underwater did make us realize that we prefer the civilization to be gone. We like the poetry of players to uncover the mystery through their own experience, rather than have them, talk to an NPC and, have the NPC talk and describe what happened. Having these people gone already also brings the opportunity to introduce antagonists to the story. Whatever that destroyed the civilization could be the challenge for the players as well. In this concept, you can see some dark shards penetrating through these ruins, and you could see some hint of how we've done the darkness in our game today. Eventually, the world is starting to show its form to us. Things are starting to come together. Terrains poking out of clouds like islands, surrounded by creatures gracefully swimming in the air, and ruins awaiting for the players to uncover their mystery. Now that we are finding the general structure of the world, we then dove into figuring out what the story of these people are. What are these people to begin with? Why do they live in clouds, and how did they live, and why did they die? That's quite an overwhelming question, so I again went back to the sketchbook and trying to imagine, being a player. What does it feel like to meet these people? People of clouds, what's their life like? Then I tried to remember our original inspiration. Why was NC Wyeth Giant was such striking image? For me, it was because it made me remember the perspective of a child, when the world felt bigger than me and it was filled with mysteries. So I went back to the sketch and tried to imagine a giant in clouds, witnessing a giant in clouds appearing, and trying to imagine what would I see if I followed that giant. This imagination sparked many ideas for me. As a child, I found many of the things adults did felt mysterious and ritualistic, so I simply tried to reimagine and translate it where I saw adults did into this weird cloud people doing their jobs that I didn't understand. Thinking about jobs made me bring back the idea of particles in cycle. What if these cloud people had a job to make these particles move around, to circulate these particles? We used to call them as motes internally back then. They harvested them, collected them, and shipped them to have them cleansed by the storm and to have them reborn. Perhaps they were part of the cycle, but because they are gone now, it is now players' job to take these modes and put them back into the cycle, maybe. The idea of harvesting and collecting modes gave us new understanding about these people. Maybe things they collect are precious and they were obsessed by it, much like how humans are obsessed with our resources. There may have been rituals and technologies built around them. I will touch upon this later, but around this time we have also established another theme, which is a time of day. It's an overarching theme to help tell the story. And we knew we wanted to start the game on an island before starting the journey into the sky. And with the help of a time of day theme, we overlaid the concept of dawn as additional theme. I tried to imagine a dock that these people built to carry things into the sky, and then I tried to imagine being a player arriving here. What does it feel like? What does it look like? Leaving the island, entering the cloud world, and the time of day has progressed then into daytime. And then the time of day continues to progress through the journey, imagining how the ruins would change, what look different. By then, we have learned quite a bit about these people and the flow. We're starting to get the feel for it, and we're now diving into figuring out what really happened to these people. What's the history? One disclaimer is that these things I'm showing, and these are ideas that led to what it is Sky today, and it's not the official lore of the Sky. This is the preliminary ideas, just so you know. People needed these resources to survive, but nature also needs them to sustain the cycle of life. With the resources, eventually people develops technology and gains power, and they prosper. But conflict with nature escalates. And eventually there was a war, and it incurred a heavy sacrifice. You might recognize some similarity in what you see here in the sketch with what we see in the game. This concept certainly became a base for what it is known as a golden wasteland today. There was also a concept of an oracle who predicted this war, who then prepared an evacuation plan for their people. Players were never meant to see this in full glimpse, but I was hoping to leave some hints behind about this gigantic ship that they built to evacuate their people, like Noah's Ark. And continue to brainstorm many ideas, mainly trying to imagine a story that made sense for players to take a leap into the storm. I do want to preserve the mystery of what we decided for the final story of the game, so I will not go into too much detail here, but just sharing some more brainstorm sketches about the ancestral history. And then you might have recognized some similarities in the characters shown in these preliminary sketches with the spirits in the game and elders in the game. Let me talk a little more about the exploration that led to the design of our elders. We are talking about stories now, but don't forget that we are making a game. It's an experience. Characters we introduce in the game has to have a significance in the player's experience. Prototyping the game, we came to realize that we needed a strong beat after each major sections of the game, like how we fight bosses at the end of the levels. So the original idea of our so-called quote-unquote boss was some sort of guardians that presented challenges to the players before they could move on to the next level. We concepted different ideas about a character that could provide interesting gameplay, along with an evocative story. We knew that we needed multiple of these guardians across the game, and wanted to give them different characteristics to each. I was looking at different myths and stories about gods and guardians, and learned that we often use animals as a way to represent different characteristics of unique gods. So I also tried to find various animals, creatures that represented the emotion of each of the levels, and tried to convert them into different characters. Designing different animals is fun, but it's also very costly to do, so I had to imagine another version where animals are more of a symbolism that was left in statues, but the characters themselves are more of a spirits that appeared in more of a human form and human scale. This sparked some inspiration for imagining figures that are cursed. Each presents a challenge to the player, and their characteristic was represented by missing body parts. Not sure if you can recognize, but these are what eventually becomes Elders of the Isle and Elder of Prairie. Here are ideas for Guardians for Rain and Sunset, eventually becomes Elder of Forest and Elders of Valley. Having all these characters also helped spark an idea of unifying them as a group. This concept made me imagine them as a royal family of some sort, and they used to be together, but now they are separate, and the mystery is to be discovered by players. Royal family made us think that we need a king, which would make sense to appear at the end. Distributing them across the game and breaking them into levels helped us organize the flow and the story of the game. Some more ideation in 3D prototypes. You can see how they evolve and progress into what we know of them today. Again, a disclaimer that the story behind these characters I'm sharing here are preliminary ones, and I'm not explaining the official lore of the game. So now that we have a structure of the world, the creatures, characters, and the quote-unquote bosses, it is time to assemble them together into one game. We did determine that we wanted to base our flow on the theme of the time of day. We associated different emotions across 6 different times as dawn, day, rain, sunset, dusk, and night, and associated colors and shape languages to each. We then applied an emotional curve inspired by a hero's journey and designed a flow for the experience, associated by levels and characters at each stage. We then put everything together to test the flow of the game, a story of a player waking up on an island, finding ways into the sky, uncovering mysteries of the lost civilization, and then eventually ascending to a space for an overview effect. You might think we have figured out pretty much everything at this point, but that's not true. Devil's in the detail. I will share only some of the different iterations we have made on each of these levels. Dawn, we knew it would start on the island, but there was still some idea of mixing a mirage of the modern world to make this initial level give a strong sense of threshold. We played with the idea of leaving our world to enter the realm sky. More ideation of the Isle. We had versions where you rowed a boat to enter the sky realm. The concept of the boat was debated until pretty late in the phase. The shapes of the clouds at this level was also iterated a lot. A giant wall of clouds to fly over, or a hole in the clouds to penetrate through. This level has been, by far the most iterated level. We have explored so many ways to lead up into the sky. Next up is Prairie. We used to call these realms by the time of day until pretty late. Many of us, including myself, still reference these levels by the time of day. These concepts by Tom helped us determine the color of the terrain in the sky. We wanted to reference biomes from high altitude. Here a concept of bird's nest. This is pretty close to what we see in our game today in Prairie. We have settled on round and soft shape language because of the secondary layered theme of a human life. This is the second stage after the birth. It's the childhood stage, so we wanted everything to be round and soft. Pretty close to what we know of Prairie today, but at one point we wanted players to go through a cave before coming out to see the blue sky, to contrast the open, vast feel of the sky. You can see here in the sketches some preliminary versions of the gates that led to different levels, or shrines that helped you change dresses you wear. And then forest. We needed emotional curve that dips down a bit, so we added rain as another time of day. Rain was another tricky level. This was probably the most iterated level after dawn. We tried enchanted forest feel. We also tried this level to be to have an elder who seduces you. We also tried to make this level like puzzles or mazes, trying to visualize complexity of the adolescence as the human life theme. This is the third level. After childhood, you became adolescence. There's a mixed emotion. This is a time of the life where your emotion is really complicated. So we tried to also represent that visually. Another important aspect of this level was introduction of industrialization. The third layer of the story was civilization, story of the civilization. So after the civilization has lived in harmony with nature, they start the industrialization. Early concept of the temple shows the dark stone penetrating through the building, and the interior of the temple is also looking very different. After the rain is sunset, emotion raises to a peak. We wanted the gameplay to be more dynamic here, most dynamic. It represents the peak of your life when everything is exciting. This concept by Tom really captured the emotion we wanted for this level. The peak of mountains penetrating through the clouds also became base for our starting area of the Valley of Triumph. Civilization was also at its peak, so this was meant to be most decorative and rich in materials. Many of the concepts here became the base for the key areas in this level. Can you recognize them? After a peak, there's a fall. Dusk was aligned with the midlife crisis for the human life theme, or the post-apocalyptic theme time for the civilization theme. Shadi and Kang jumped in at this time of the production and helped us polish some of the ideas for this level. This was the time when we tried to expand each realms to have various sub-levels. Temple in the Golden Wasteland. Exterior is pretty close to what we see today, but the interior became a lot different. Night is a vault of knowledge. Visual inspiration of this realm was a library and the ethereal dream. Following the arc of the civilization, this is supposed to be most advanced, but we didn't want to make this to feel too technological. Instead, we wanted the whole experience to feel more like a dream or magic, so Jackie did this concept to capture the dreamlike quality of the realm. Some early concept of the shelves and the quote-unquote books. We designed a lantern to be the device that recorded memories, concept done by Tom. And the early prototype of the end of this realm was more like a planetarium. A place where you meet the oracle to hear about the history and to hear about your own destination as a player. Storm is the final realm. This is the moment of death, and we wanted to visualize the lowest low moments of the game. At one point, we were considering that the Storm realm is black and white. Tom captured the feeling of what it could feel like to be in the midst of a storm. And then try to approach the Eye of Storm. Then Kang helped added one color, red, into this visual to further enhance the emotion of this realm. At the Eye of Storm, there's a hint of what actually happened in the past. Trevor Stringer concepted the moment before the cataclysm, and Tom painted a version of our representation of darkness. After the death in Storm, you now shoot up into the space. This is a moment of rebirth, the overview effect we wanted to have from the very beginning of the project. For a while, we were going after the idea of the representing the unity of people by a superorganism we called as a megabird. Here's Kang's emotional capture of the moment when everything is coming together. And the evolution of the megabird. If you remember the original sketch done by Genova, we have come far, but I think it's nice to see the original idea kind of stuck around. In the end, we emphasized more on the idea of the stars and constellations, so our megabird became more of a mega constellation. Because there are too many layers of different problems we were solving to consolidate into one experience. I am abbreviating a whole lot of the process that we went through, but I hope you were able to watch how ideas were created and morphed and evolved into what comes Sky today. And then finally a game was released. I was only able to show only some of the 2D concepts, but making of this game really involved the high-level concepts of storytelling, game designs, engineering, 3D modeling, sound effects, and music. Literally everything had to come together to form this special game. A spark of inspiration initiated this project. We played and iterated on so many ideas. It was fun to iterate, but sometimes became overwhelming. After each failures, we stood up and we never gave up. We kept on going. There were times we felt like we really lost our direction, but we continued. I was really not sure if this game would do well, but kept on going, believing that there's something at the core in this game that is worth sharing with the world. And then we broke through, released the game. So many rough edges and unpolished details, but the game was released, and then in the end received by millions of people. Today the game is still alive, and with the support of all the players, including yourself, it is growing and evolving even more. This is the end of my presentation, but I truly believe that the making of Sky was kind of a miracle. I hope seeing the birth and the evolution of the game was interesting to you. I am grateful to say that Sky is much alive still and continuing to change, and I am looking forward to witness how it's going to evolve more through the many years to come. Thank you.